Hey friends, Worm here today to talk about the new dungeon, and specifically the missed opportunity that Bungie had. But we'll kind of briefly go over my thoughts on the dungeon as well. And yeah, it's good. I'm not gonna sit here and complain or pretend that it's bad in any ways. It's a refreshing take on mechanics and stuff like that. Of course, the last dungeon we got, Spire the Watcher, was a little bit lackluster in terms of mechanics. Like, it was nice that it was easy, but of course, connect the dots isn't really that fun when you do it 25 million times over, right? So we got some new mechanics on this one. So I figured we briefly just touch on each encounter, and then we touch on the loot, and we touch on where I think that they missed out on a really cool opportunity. But yeah, starting off with the encounters. First encounter here, it is kind of long. It's the one, that's basically how you get in. You gotta do the 4 like symbols, blah blah blah. I feel like they could have done better with like just 3. It feels just tedious. I think that if you can do 3, it shows that you know what you're doing and that you can do it. I think that 4 is just unnecessary. It makes it artificially long. But at the same time, it is really neat, the location. We're in the arcology, in that kind of middle area that we always used to see. I remember way back when Titan still existed in the game, looking down at the arcology and thinking, man, like, you could see trees and stuff down there. I was always like, that'd be cool to go down there and whatnot. And yeah, now we get the opportunity to, which is pretty neat. So not going to complain about that. The setting's fantastic. It's all green and like foresty kind of, which is really cool. And then you look out over the water and stuff like that. Haven't explored too much of this area. Maybe there's some neat secrets. Maybe, you can see some critters in the water, something like that. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the first area. I think it's just a little bit too long. Otherwise, though, not too difficult. Especially if you got 3 players, you can kind of mow through it pretty easy. The second part, though, or I say the second part, the part between the first and the second encounter is really long, and that's the underwater traversal part. I feel like Bungie, as cool as this dungeon is and as perfect as it may be, I feel like they really did add this section to make it feel artificially longer. Like, don't get me wrong, I like that we go deep underwater. Like, we sink, I don't even know how many meters down. Like, I mean, we've got to be thousands of meters down, but it feels, it's boring to sink that far down. You're literally just sinking in water, getting bubbles, getting to the next area, sinking, blah blah blah. I feel like Bungie should allow us just to sink all the way to the bottom. You can look over the edge and you can see where you need to go, but if you don't take the path that they want you to take, you'll die. You get a turn back notification, and in 4 seconds you die. I think that really they could do something to reduce the time. I know they won't, but it would be nice if they do something to reduce the time that you're actually in the underwater part, because it's really tedious. But yeah, the second encounter, which is, I believe, Ekthar, the Knights guy, very cool encounter. I think that the ad density is fantastic. It's refreshing, of course, because in Spire the Watcher, we had ads, but it never felt overwhelming, and it never felt super crazy. Like, ads were very manageable, but you get to the second encounter of Ghost of the Deep, and if you don't have a good ad clearing build, you're going to be in some trouble. I think that on regular difficulty, it's pretty easy to stay on top of ads, especially with some of the builds that we have currently. Arc right now is insanely good, but Void Hunter also very strong. Lots of ads, very good. The part where you go under the water, I think, is also really manageable. It's not too difficult to find the plates that you need to activate. Of course, you got the boss chasing you, so it's not just some boring, I gotta walk around underwater and get bubbles, activate symbols. Like, there is, there's something down there chasing you that you can't fight back against. I like that. And he's not a super threat. It's not like, he's killing you every 5 seconds. He's easy to avoid, or I shouldn't say avoid, he's easy to not die to. But of course, if he smashes you or whatever it is that he does, he takes away a lot of your oxygen meter or your pressure meter, whatever it's called, in game, which I think is pretty neat. And yeah, I would say the one complaint I have, this boss, as well as the final boss, both have a lot of health, and it almost feels like too much. You know, I understand on like, you know, if you're under leveled, yeah, you know, it makes sense that, you know, it's going to take you more than 3 or 4 phases to kill the boss. But Lord, if you do not have like perfect damage, like you're easily looking at like a 5 to 6 phase on this boss. Again, same principle with the first encounter. It doesn't need to be that long. They don't need to have that much health. Like if you can get, you know, 3 damage phases in and be damaging him and stuff like that, like, you know, it should be known that, okay, hey, like this person obviously knows what they're doing, right? So I don't think the necessity for having 5, 6 damage phases is really necessary, outside of maybe on your first run when you're not entirely sure what to do, which I know there have been players that have done it in 1 phase. Okay, like I know that exists, but I think that that's the top like 1% of PvE players. Like that's the elite of the elites that do that. You know, if you go on LFG or if you're trying to do it solo, like it's not gonna end on that same regard if you're an average everyday player. So I think that just reducing Ekthar's health, probably the only tuning that needs to happen. Maybe you could even tone down how much health the shield actually has. And yes, I know Arbalest 1 pops it. Like, that's great. I'm not complaining that Arbalest pops it in 1 shot. But at the same time, you shouldn't have to rely on an exotic to pop the shield instantly. I think you should just have a little bit less health in terms of that. But moving on to the final encounter, which is the final boss. Very, very fun. This was a very unique twist. I like that they brought back the deep sight aspect of it. I should have mentioned this in the Ekthar fight too, but I like that deep sight has been brought back. You know, deep sight was a thing way back in the Witch Queen when it first came out, and then it just kind of went away. You know, players didn't do it outside of from the Witch Queen campaign, and maybe I think in a strike there might have been some deep sight thing. So it's nice that they brought back the deep sight in this dungeon. But the boss fight itself is very, very interesting. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, but it's manageable. And I think that's the key here. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to do, but you can stay on top of it. You can do it. You can achieve it very, very easily. You know, the first step is activating the plates, you know, killing them by killing the Knight Vorlog on the assigned plate, lining up the symbols, going off, once you do all 3, going off into the separate rooms, killing each of the wizard, the acolyte, and the titan, not the titan, sorry, the knight. It's a very fun rotation, and there's not really any boringness to it. I think Perseus, I believe was the name from Spire the Watcher, kind of a boring boss, really. The boss, not too much of a threat. Like, yeah, he'd walk around and harass you, but you could take the side tunnels and stuff and he'd be fine. That wizard, though, in Ghosts of the Deep, like, he teleports everywhere. He shoots you from everywhere. It can get very, very hectic if you don't stay on top of ads. On top of that, you know, the time frames that you have between, like, killing the knight, for example, and depositing whatever it is while activating deep sight. There's a lot going on. But again, I don't think it's, once you get it down, it's not unmanageable. You know, you can take it bite size at a time. Like, hey, I'm going to stand on the plate. I'm going to kill the knight. Okay, now the knight's dead. I'm going to go line up the symbol, activate the symbol. Then I'm going to go to the next plate. Repeat the process 3 times. Then, okay, I'm going to kill the wizard first. Deposit, get deep sight, deposit. Kill the knight, get deep sight, deposit. Kill the acolyte, deep sight, deposit. Then damage. I think it's overall, it's a really, really fun dungeon. I think that it was artificially extended based on, you know, like I said, the swimming part. That is too long. The first encounter, you know, taking so long, and then the boss is held. I think all these are Bungie trying to make it feel longer than it actually should be. Because here's the thing, I'm not saying that dungeons shouldn't take a good time commitment. Like, it's not a strike. It should definitely take longer than a strike, you know, but I'm saying, you know, when it's taking an hour and a half for teams to clear, because I was on the forum, I was on Reddit and the Bungie forums and stuff, and people were saying it's taking them an hour and a half with 3 people to clear it because the boss's health and stuff like that. So I think that Bungie will eventually kind of tune the health down and the shields and stuff like that, but hopefully it comes sooner rather than later. However, I want to move on to the loot here because the loot is, oh, where it's at. First of all, the armor, absolutely phenomenal. I have no complaints with the armor whatsoever. It, of course, has that that RGB effect, and I think this one's true full... it's like a true, like, bright and shiny RGB. Like, you know, the robes, like, everything glows. Unlike some of the other armor sets we have, like the Guardian Games armor, for example, where there's just like some small glowy parts, like the whole, you know, the whole Warlock robe glows, the whole chest piece, arms, everything glows and changes colors if you want to use, you know, photo finish or something like that. So the armor is fantastic. Weapons also very, very good. They've got some crazy rolls. You know, I know that a lot of people are comparing the new SMG in this dungeon to the Immortal. I wouldn't say it's as good. But it's definitely a very, very good contender. It can also get some really strong rolls. Demolition is incandescent. I'm sorry, I'm getting over a sickness still. But let's see what else. The grenade launcher, stasis wave frame. This is the first ever stasis wave frame we got. Actually, it's the first ever wave frame that we've got that has not been in the energy slot, or technically the heavy slot too. So that's absolutely amazing. And it can also get some fantastic rolls. Collective action with a Stasis Titan is nutty good. I've got no complaints on that. I actually haven't got the glaive yet, but I've seen some of the rolls the glaive can get. It also looks very, very cool. Plus the aesthetic of the glaive is absolutely fantastic. It reminds me of a harpoon gun. I only wish that we actually got a harpoon gun. And then, of course, the rocket launcher, same thing. It's Stasis rocket launcher. You can get some wild rolls. Fantastic weapon. And then, of course, the exotic from the dungeon, which I, of course, don't have because I haven't been lucky. But it's also very neat. I think that it's not something that's going to be overpowered. You know, it's not something that's going to need tuning, but it's nice to get a support style weapon. You know, giving yourself woven mail is fantastic. Giving other people woven mail is fantastic. Regenerating ammo for giving other people woven mail is fantastic. And of course, the ability to make a grapple point with the catalyst, super cool. It's through and through a support based exotic. I would love to do some testing and see if when you activate woven mail, if you're using solar subclass, if you give another person woven mail, if it'll actually activates Ember of Benevolence, because I feel like it should. I don't know, though. We'll just have to see. But yeah, the loot is fantastic. But the last thing I want to talk about is, of course, the missed opportunity here. And I guess it's not really a big deal. I didn't expect Bungie to do it, but it would have been so cool to interact with some sort of monster from the deep depths. Okay, and I know I can't be the only one that thinks this. How cool would it have been if we get to the final boss and instead of fighting that wizard, like it's like this freaking sea monster, you know, something we've never seen, you know, and Bungie, they've kind of been doing that with some of the raids. You know, we got Rolk, never seen a character like Rolk before. You know, he was a Lubraean, I think was the name of the species. You know, Nezarec, again, not like any enemy we've seen before. Well, Tormentors, maybe you could make an argument for Tormentors, but they're such unique bosses. You know, it's not just like, oh, like it's a Fallen or Hive or Vex boss, something like that. And I think that was the missed opportunity here. Is Bungie, they could have added some type of sea monster, something that we've never seen in Destiny before that we actually get to fight. Because I know as you're going through this dungeon, you can see like, you know, sea creatures in the depths, and they're massive, which is super cool. I'm, you know, not gonna say they're not cool, but it would have been way cooler if we got to fight, you know, something along those lines, like some type of sea monster, even if it wasn't the final boss encounter, just some type of interaction. Maybe add some like small enemies that attack you like while you're underwater, and you have to, once you get the bubbles, it scares them off. That would have been cool. Like we're underwater, you know, the thalassophobia is a thing. You know, people are uncomfortable underwater, but it's exciting to go underwater. They could have taken and let us, you know, run with it, you know, sea monsters, fish, all that kind of stuff. But I felt like it was a little bit lacking in the creature department, and it would have been so cool to see those. But again, doesn't take away from the dungeon. It just, I think it was a missed opportunity here. But yeah, that's about all I got to say though about the new dungeon. Let me know what you guys think of the new dungeon. Did you like it? Hate it? Do you think the loot's good? Do you think the loot's bad? Like what do you think about the actual like length of the entire dungeon? I mean, because it does feel like it's artificially long. I think that's the one thing that Bungie could improve on, is just the amount of time it takes to do it. Because with an unoptimized team, like obviously, like I said, you know, if you're using an optimized team, if you got everybody and that knows what they're doing, they're PvE gods, yeah, you can clear it in like 20 minutes probably. I wouldn't say 20 minutes. It takes 20 minutes to get through the water part alone, but you can clear it in like 30 minutes easy. But of course, if you're using LFG or something like that, like it's going to take some time. I think Bungie should just decrease that time. But yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts. Of course, if you like the video, drop a like. It helps the channel out a lot. And by the way, we are so close to hitting 300 subscribers. So drop a sub for more daily Destiny content. And yeah, that's it for me. Do me a favor real quick. Watch the video you see on the end screen now, because for whatever reason, YouTube thinks you will like it. And I'll catch y'all on the next one. Bye for now, guys.